No, not yet. Name, our name, last name. Sorry. Yeah. I think it was the old one, yeah.
I will keep you updated on
No, I'll get it
what's
in.
going on.
Today.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye, Alex.
Bye.
Where is your restroom?
So the office is shaped like a track. So just keep going around, and the men's room is right after the exit sign on your left.
Awesome.
You were
thank
like really close to it.
So do I go that way?
You can.
Okay.
If you go through the copy room, you'll see it. It'll be like right in front of you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. She's coming on up for you.
Cool. I like your hat.
Thanks. All right, let's see here. Hey, Maria. Say something. Can you hear me? Okay, Leslie is doing her thumbs up. Ethan is doing his thumbs up. Can you guys hear Maria? No. Okay. Maria, are you on mute?
Hello.
Uh-oh. Well, this is... Let me see.
Excuse me. Bye, Alex. It was nice meeting you.
It was nice to meet you.
Have a good day. Okay?
You too.
Thanks.
All right. Let me... I don't. All right. But you can.
Flower pot too. If that would be good.
Oh, she's texting me. Let's see. I love it. Leslie's like, have you tried opening and closing the Zoom? You may want to do that. Do you want to just log out, Maria, and then maybe log back in? Okay. That's how, Jacob, we're on the Zoom and no one can hear Maria.
What's going on, Maria?
Well, she just logged on or logged off and tried to log back on. And Leslie goes, which I love. Have you tried opening and closing Zoom, which is like what I do when everything is broken?
So where's Maria? Is
Well,
back
she
in?
just logged back out and she's gonna try and log back in. But I think I don't know if she's at the Weaverville office or her house. Okay, so here she comes. Now she's back. Okay, now it says you're connecting to audio. Okay, now it says you're on mute. So, okay,
I'm feeling super excited.
Didn't even need me.
look, we didn't even need Jacob. Look, just
I know, Jacob. Whew, I think I need you to just shadow me for like a week. What kind of energy I'm putting off that's messing with my tech.
A secret about tech support is that it always just works when the tech person is around. I'm just going to let you know that now.
This is so true.
Case in point, right?
case in point. Now, it's
Well,
really
or
like-
Leslie suggested maybe restart Zoom and,
so it was also Leslie. So thank you, Leslie.
Yes, that's like point
Good
number
job,
2.
Leslie.
Restart.
Maria, and everybody here, I'm gonna turn my video off just so I don't like interrupt you because I have stuff to do, but this will be recorded because I know that there are a couple people that can't make it today. So I just wanted to let you guys know that it's being recorded.
Awesome.
All righty. Well, if you have any other questions, Maria, take it away and I'll be here. Just text me if you have any other issues.
Yeah, I'm going to put my phone on airplane mode because it affects my headphones.
Yep, that's
So,
totally fine. You can do that too.
If you need me, tomorrow, ask me to take it off
Just
the
have to
airplane.
you just have to remember to take your phone off of the airplane mode. That's good.
Yeah, that's my thing. Yeah, the 3 of us will have a fantastic time here.
Yes. Exciting.
Today.
Thanks, Maria.
Thank you. How is everybody? Ethan, Leslie, sorry for that slow get together. And I know some people had mentioned they were coming on today, so that maybe we were giving them a little extra time to get logged on. Ethan, looks like you're driving, and then it's always good for a Zoom call.
Yeah.
Especially when we're
my apartment back in Charlotte, my roommates texted me that a pipe burst in our building, and they're in West Virginia, so I have to go drive the 2 hours to check on it.
Oh no.
I don't know if it was in our apartment, but it was in our building, so I'm going to check. So that's why I'm in the car.
Well, I'm sorry for that.
But my car, but it pretty much drives itself. So
Mine.
it's a Tesla.
Oh yeah. So you can just get on forums. You just keep your eyes and make sure the car is doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
Little leery of that. And then, so this particular portion, we are going to be talking about forums. So it is a good time to be in front of the computer or to, kind of be following along. I'll be able to share my screen with you just a bit. So what I really want to do to start is to show us kind of one of the biggest questions is, how do we find the forms? Where do we find them? How does Command fit in with DocuSign? And you'll actually have some more information coming from Jacob, I believe, before the week's out. So some of the terms might be super familiar, some of them might be brand new, but this will give a little bit of clarity to how Command and DocuSign and forms actually work. Again, I know you're both muted, and Leslie, I can't see you nod your head, but I'm just wondering if both of you have, first off, login information for Command and for DocuSign, and if you know where to find those items. So Ethan, you're saying yes. Great, good.
Yeah, I'm just
Leslie,
here for more of like a refresher, because I know some things have changed a little bit. So I just wanted to kind of go over it again.
yeah, that's good. So the most important part for everybody is just going to be to have that login information. You don't get very far. The source that we recommend that will be the most, it will travel with you the best, is to come through Command to actually start any kind of transaction with someone. It's always a little tricky because I've created so many fake clients in my command, and it gets a little tricky to get emails, email addresses and that sort of thing. But I'm gonna try to move through that. I've got a couple windows open here for me to share my screen with you. I thought I really wanted a different open window, but I'll take the one that's got them. There we go, that's a good one. All right, so agent, gosh, I have totally forgotten now the old address that we used for command. It's so obvious. I've got some bookmarks that are on my screen, so I don't even go there any longer via the web address, but agent.kw.com is the way that we get into command. The very first thing that has to happen for any particular client that you're working with is to create a contact out of them. And the first time you are going to put some documents together, always come through command. That's just like the cardinal rule, because that will enable DocuSign to always be able to communicate with command. There are back-end ways that you can get to DocuSign without it, but it's definitely first sign in, first creation of documents for the client. You want to come straight through command. So I guess some of this may be total refresher, but I will do this route anyway for anybody who may be watching the recording and doesn't know this. The contacts applet is the second one down, and so we start there. That's one. There are usually several ways that we can add contacts, but this is an easy one. For some reason, contacts is really slow when I'm on Zoom and I'm screen sharing, so we'll just be patient with it. Add contact is how we'll start, and this is always pretty self-explanatory, but the key with command is going to be to fill in as much information as you possibly can. That will help you down the line, actually, with your clients, to have as many pieces of information as you can. Jacob will go into a little bit about what these components mean, tags and that sort of thing, and how they'll help you in your business. So I won't go that direction, but certainly take note of that because that's pretty important as you're creating. Let me search. Oh, this is where it takes so long on Zoom for search to happen. So I'm going to go into a client just from the standpoint of there's a lot of activity, and this makes it pretty easy to show you. So I am inside a client that I've created. Again, I zipped right past how to create this client. But let's say that now it's time to do some work with this client, or I just want to get my working with real estate agents or my buyer agency, listing agreement, anything like that set up. So I'm inside the particular client that I've created. And there are a couple ways that I can create an opportunity. So step one is contact. Step two is opportunity. And then we'll be able to go into find our forms. So to create a new opportunity, lots of different ways to do this. There's a tab over here on the right. And just, I'm not looking at you guys. You are seeing my command screen, just to confirm that, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So under the opportunities, I can go that direction and create. I've kind of gotten in the habit actually of doing this because it's truly connected to my client. And then again, there are lots more details to fill out here. So a couple of things I'll point out that'll help you down the line is Asheville will always be your market center. No other real choice for that any longer. So it's fine if you're in a different office, that's fine for it to say Asheville. That's what it should say. We also will choose the type, and this will be very important so that you know where to find your opportunity that you've created, whether it's a listing or a buyer. Odds of landlord or tenant, any kind of relationship like that will be small for you. I'm going to create this as a buyer. The client's name automatically appears because I created this opportunity from there, from inside his contact. I could add a co-buyer here. And then very important is going to be the opportunity name. If you have a buyer and you don't know, you're just starting out, you don't know the property, the address that you'll eventually have connected to this opportunity, you may not have anything extra to add there. But if you do know the address, it is good to put that in. There's a couple things. If you're in a branch office, ask about it. If you're in South Asheville, Weaverville, Black Mountain, I think even 53 probably has a code. For instance, for the agents in Weaverville, we would always put our abbreviation. That just helps the BIC and any compliance folks to find the opportunity. And then also the street address. And this will be important if you get multiple opportunities for people. This will also carry over into DocuSign. So whatever you're naming this is an important bit. Again, plenty of information to put in here, including the commission rate, the budget, where they're going to be in the pipeline. And again, that will be something that you may learn a little bit more about from Jacob, but you kind of see that on your opportunity home screen. So these choices will make a difference in where those are placed. And then I'll also point out that the reason it's important to put in as many things as you possibly can is that they'll follow you through the opportunity itself, right down to how you get paid in filling out some of those details, but then they'll also help you with some of your projected numbers. So again, as much as you can, if you know this is, a buyer who's in don't we all want the $3 million buyer? If definitely the budget is 300, that's actually going to auto-populate into some of your analytics that Command so beautifully offers. So this, once I've created this, I've got a brand new opportunity. And again, that particular buyer that I'm working with does a lot of different transactions. So that's why there were multiple ones showing there. But this is your client. You've created this opportunity. And once you, a couple ways that you can find this. Again, this took me straight into the details tab for the opportunity. Lots of blanks. And one thing I'll tell you about Command, and this will really transfer over to DocuSign as well. The pencil icons are how you'll always edit anything you want to. Okay. So I know this is a long way around to get to our forms, but this is where everybody gets stuck, is how do I find my forms? So under these tabs, these are all clickable tabs. Documents would make good sense that that's where you'd start to put some documents together. I clicked on that, and at a glance, it looks kind of empty. So one more tip that I'll give you just right from the offset is once you are first opening your Documents tab, over on the left-hand side, there's some folders here. And a lot of people get really confused with, this must be where my forms live. It's not. It's just where a checklist lives. So the very first time you create this, you'll usually have to actually choose residential to pull up some checklist items. And quickly, there are 3 different folders here. So I just want to make sure that that you guys are seeing this part, that over on the left-hand side, these are also tabs. So you have a consultation folder where you could add some documents. That is a place where you might find a good use for it. Some people store some emails there, or kind of how the beginning process has gone. But from a compliance standpoint, anything that you put in this folder, your BIC is not actually looking at this for an approval. So just make sure you're not putting forms there that you're expecting the broker in charge to review. The we're in a buying folder here, or a buying opportunity. So we see only the under contract. If I click that, this is a really great checklist for you to kind of bounce off of and say, here are all the things I'm going to need through the transaction. So one way that you can just remind yourself which forms do I actually need. These are placeholders, if you will. So there's no form here until you add it. Over here on the right is add a file. So that's how that will actually be used later in the process once you've got some signatures. So let's say that you're ready to send some forms to your client, and you want to now go find them, fill them out, get them ready for them to sign. Over on the right-hand side is start a transaction. So this is what's going to connect you into DocuSign. Once I click that, most of you will only see DocuSign. Some people may have connected to Zip Forms to find your forms. If so, you might see Zip Forms here. Any agents who were previously connected to dotloop will sometimes also see that, but most people will see just DocuSign. And we definitely recommend that if you can get connected to DocuSign, that's really the best way, because this is where all of our internal forms live and are uploaded. So if we have an addendum that's added, or a form that's amended, this is where it will come. So it's really important to stick with that process. DocuSign typically is making us log in to start the transaction. So each time I'm having to do that, and that's something just to get used to. And I will say that's different from your username. At least it is for me. My username is my email address for DocuSign. So if you have questions about that, Jacob or Danny can help with finding that. You'll immediately notice when you come in that it has populated with the opportunity name that I added in. And then again, just like in Command, you've got some tabs over the top. All right. So details. It's so hard to do forms without a DocuSign class. So I'm just going to have to take you through this part. Details is where a lot of your forms will actually populate from. So if you're ever having trouble with typing information in, or something sticking in a form that you can't seem to get rid of, details is where you'll come back to. And you'll notice that there are two sides to it. On the left-hand side are a lot of the particular transaction details. Some of the things may not make sense. This is used all across the country. So some of the terms we may not utilize in the same way, binding date, but that would be once really kind of a due diligence date. So if you see something that doesn't make sense, ask your broker in charge just for clarity on that, Danny or Jacob, or advisor if you got that. So any of those things that cause some question, make sure that you find out if that's something that we utilize here in North Carolina, or if there's a different way. Over on the right-hand side is the part that we use most often, because this is where you're actually going to put your person information in. And that's a little confusing in DocuSign, because there's a tab that says people. So I would tend to think right out of the gate that we would add people there. Seems to make sense, but alas, it's not. It's in the details side. So you'll see that there's options for the seller information, the listing agent, too, if you've got them, and then the buyer information. Mine's auto-populating over from Command. So if you've got some information entered there, you should see it come over. And from the agent standpoint, you will see whatever has been populated out of your profile from DocuSign. Some of that will be auto-filled. But let's say that you need to change something in there. You will do that. Once again, that pencil icon is your key. And once I click that, all these fields become editable. So that's going to be an important part to fill out your people before you get started. So the part you have been waiting for, 24 minutes in. Everything is found under documents, as you might imagine. There are a couple ways that you can add documents to fill out or to get signatures on. You can click right here in the middle where it says add documents, or again, the plus sign is over on the right hand side. That's again similar to command when you're going to add something new. This is probably the way I use most often because it gives me some of these options. I'll tell you one more big point is that if you are choosing DocuSign forms, these are template files that have been created and have kind of smart fields, if you will. So that is, if you're filling out documents or getting signatures, that's really going to be your quickest path to success, because those forms are ready to receive any kind of information. If by chance you're receiving from maybe a listing agent or somebody, you may be having to pull in a flat PDF document from your computer, uploading that. So the biggest thing to know is those are never going to be smart forms. They don't know what fields mean. You literally have to tell it everything. So for the purpose of this, let's go with DocuSign forms. Now, the first time that you sign on, you'll actually be prompted to enter your NRDS, or NERDS as we call it, number. You definitely do not want to do that. It feels like you should, but there is an option. I feel like it's down at the bottom here, and it will say skip over this. You'll only have to do it one time. I think it says something like complete without number or skip number, something like that. So again, Danny or Jacob could help through that rocky moment. Anybody really could help you through that piece of it. Once you've done that, and mine is showing this way, you've got two options that could be selected. So DocuSign Forms Library is a default. If you choose something like a DocuSign Forms group, this will actually give you some categorized documents. I'm a little leery of it because sometimes you'll need further documents that are not in here, although we may be updating. Let me just take a look at listing documents. So what's happened here is just kind of a grouping of any forms that may likely be part, for instance, of a listing. The buyer side, again, you pretty much know, and you'll get this flow down, that you are going to start with, you're working with real estate agents form always. That's always going to be form number one. And we know that we do that at first substantial contact. So once your client starts to reveal some information to you, you definitely are at the point that you want this form signed. So that's probably the first one that you'll pull in. But also your buyer agency agreement, or if you're working with a listing, you would fill out the listing agreement. Since I have rattled on and on, does anybody have questions right before we go any further? Chris, you're shaking your head. That's good. I've done so well. And Ethan, I know you're driving, but at any time, just unmute and stop me because I'm not seeing your faces. So if you're raising your hand, I won't know it. So since there's just a few of us. All right. So you do have this option with Forms Group. I am so old school that I tend to not pull in documents that way because I want to make sure that I'm not missing something that I should be thinking of. But again, these look pretty exhaustive. So for most documents. So I come in and I use DocuSign Forms Library. And then under, let me cancel out of this because I'm not quite sure. I want to make sure I got back where I needed to and I'm not working out of the library. All right, so if I'm not messing with the group and I just say, hey, I just need to grab one form, The second option is the one that will most often toggle between our internal forms and our board forms. So you'll see when you select that you've got KW 134 and the NCAR forms. KW 134 is going to be all the things that are just specific to us. I hope you're able to see the pop-up. I think it does work. That you're able to see these forms that I'm kind of showing you. So these are all the things that we require or utilize here at Keller Williams. You may or may not need all or some of these, so we can kind of talk through quickly what situations you would possibly need these. Certain forms you'll always use, but definitely you will find yourself in the association forms quite a lot. This is where all of the standard North Carolina forms are found. And important to know, just by the way, from a big standpoint, that if you're not, these are not shareable. So like if you have a friend who is not working with you, but they say, oh, I need a contract. We're not, as realtors, allowed to share these forms unless we're working with them. So just know that. In order to find forms, there's of course this easy little search bar here, and I can always just start typing and it'll pull up those forms that are related. So if it were working with real estate agents, we're given 2 separate forms for that, just by the way, one for listing, one for buying. And either of those are the same, but since these are smart documents, it will matter which client you've got. So just be mindful of whether you're choosing the buying side or the listing side, even though it's the same exact form, because it will engage the fields as it's supposed to. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and roll through forms that I would naturally choose. You can add any number of forms at the same time. So because I know I'm going to fill out a buyer agency with this client, that'll be my number 2 form. And let's just say that they're really ready to make an offer. So again, I started typing and it's auto filling those forms that are most likely to be the ones that I'm looking for. Just be cautious again of what type of form, the number. You'll get pretty used to a 2T, but this is for residential when there's a land. This one always confuses people because I said residential when there's land. Residential when there's a house. 12T is our vacant lot form, and a lot of people pull that because you get kind of excited. You're looking for an offer. That's the first one to pop up, and so that gets selected a lot, only to find out later that nothing's making sense on that form. So just pay close attention once you have searched these as to what form you're adding in. So I've selected 3. I can tell at the bottom that I've selected those 3. And I clicked add, and we'll see it populate then in our documents tab. So one other thing I'm going to tell you is that when I've pulled these forms in from DocuSign, there's a blue icon. Once I start to get some signatures, it can look a little confusing because you'll start to see a red icon on some that says PDF. I had to put my glasses on so that I can see what's in those tiny boxes. And you'll also see some green icons. So once they've been signed, and they may be duplicates of this exact document. But as long as you're looking at a blue icon, these are forms that you can actually fill out. So that's going to be the key. If you open a document and you're not able to do anything with the fields, chances are you're in more of a PDF version of the form, and so it doesn't allow you to type. All right, so any questions up to this point?
No, not really.
Oh, good. No questions from the dog, Ethan, right? I love that. That made my day. I pulled up the window and there's there's a sweet face in there.
I adopted him yesterday.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations. That's good. Taking him on a road trip already. Chris, is this new to you? I know we were talking about refreshers and that sort of thing earlier before I think you came on. Is DocuSign kind of new to you, or is this old news and you wish we'd move on to form?
I hope my it's because I just got off of the first 4 hours of Zoom with my Ignite program.
Yeah,
So,
total
I got 8 hours.
fun day. I love it. You'll be a better person for this.
I know. No, I've used DocuSign, but it's been since 2014. So
Okay.
it is new to me for sure.
Okay. And, again, we're trying to do a bit of an overview in this forms and the things we should know about it. It's next to impossible to just cover it in a flash. There's so much. So I have found that it really alleviates a lot of questions just to start the way we did with how to find them. That's the biggest thing we run into. So this is good. We'll move on over into actual forms and things we should know about them. And again, stop me if there are any questions with that. I clicked on that working with real estate agents form. DocuSign will do its little work there. And we'll bring up the form so that I can actually start to edit this.
I did miss a part, I'm in opportunities, and I think I missed how you got from there to the DocuSign standalone.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I just missed that.
Okay, so once I'm back in command right now. I think y'all can see my command screen. Under the Documents tab, this is generally where now it says sync transaction. Before, when I'm starting a new transaction, it'll be black in color, the button will, and it will say start a transaction. That will, and you do have to, you have to be in a new opportunity for it to show that way. Otherwise, it's always going to show, I said sync transaction, go to transaction if you're already in an opportunity that you've created a DocuSign room for. So it'll always be in this section. Does that help? And I'll tell you, what'll happen, I'm back in that old opportunity. It's just going to open a new DocuSign window for me. Luckily, I'm still signed in, so it recognized me and didn't make me do that. But it will always open a new window. Just by the way.
Thanks.
Sorry, I am trying to uncover my bars here. My tabs. There we go. All right. So we are in this working with real estate agents now. I'm going to go ahead and put myself in here. And you can always tell that these are editable fields because the square or the rectangle is already in there. Is everybody pretty comfortable with working with real estate agents form-wise?
Yeah.
Good. It's such a widely used form. That's a good one to be good and familiar with. What I wanted to show you here. Oh, actually, this won't work because I've already have my name over in the details. If I hadn't filled out some of my details in DocuSign in the people section, or not the people, the buyer's agent, listing agent or seller, and I just started typing over here, this would actually filter back over to my details tab. So if I put myself as in here and had not filled out the details section, I could go back and actually see that I'm there. As a matter of fact, let me just show you. I shouldn't be doing this in an actual client's file because this will cause me. Oh, Leslie, I don't know why I just forgot your last name. Huh. I'm going to save it right there. Davis, is it Davis? Oh boy, it's all good. It's That's what 4 hours of Zoom will do, isn't it? All right, so I'm just going to save this because I just want to show you how this affects your details. So if you're ever having trouble with it, this is where you want to check. So I typed to myself, I hope I had the buyer form, or this will look a little different. Well, don't you love it when what you're trying to prove doesn't work? I think I didn't save it, or maybe I did save that. Let it do its thing. I don't know why that didn't. Generally, oh, yep, see something that I did there. I did not take it all the way. I didn't bring it all the way home. But just know that I won't drag you through that again. If I had done that correctly, it would have changed my details. The reason I tell you this is one time I was sending some sample forms, which is something that we often do, to a buyer, to a seller. And I knew they would have a hard time understanding that this was not an actual contract. We had not gotten an offer. And so I needed to show the word sample, or I wanted to show the word sample on that copy of the offer to purchase. And so I put in the buyer field sample. And I had totally forgotten then, as we went through the process, every time that I would create a new form, there was already a sample in there. And I was so puzzled by that. That's actually one of the ways that I found out how those details and the forms actually talk back and forth. So if you ever see something that's not jiving or shouldn't be there, go back and fix it in the details. Buyer agency. How many of you have actually filled out a buyer agency before? Leslie, is that thumbs up meaning yes, I have? Because that might have been earlier.
Yeah, I have.
Oh, good. Ethan, you said not yet, right?
No, I mean, I've looked at them, but I haven't filled one out.
Yeah.
I didn't know the little trick about the details before though. So
I know. I hate that we're off of forms, and talking about all these details, but no pun intended. But these are the things that will halt you in the evening when you're trying to fill out some of these papers. So yeah.
That's like a game changer. I didn't know that before. So I was like typing everything in every time.
Oh, good. Yes, very important. That's great. This was a successful day then. So I think the biggest thing that, as we talk about forms, you all probably do know this, is that blank spots in the form are no good if at all possible. They're blank for a reason. So if there's nothing that goes in there, the most important thing we can ever do is make sure that we've addressed the blank spots. That's what we're allowed to do as realtors, is to fill in. We're not allowed really to draft, any kind of legal terminology for these. So that can be tricky, but the biggest thing that we use, as a matter of fact, I bet my N/A keys on my computer are really kind of worn down for the number of times that I put those into a blank. So if you come across any of these forms and there's nothing that truly applies, go ahead and put an NA in there. It's a good practice to be in. That is twofold. One shows your client and the other side that nothing is intended to be in there. It also kind of allows you to know, I didn't miss a really important blank. They're all pretty important on these forms, and it's kind of interesting when vagueness happens, how that can really go south for us all. So just a good habit to get into. You'll never get in trouble for putting too much in terms of nothing applies here, too much information. You could find yourself in some trouble for leaving a blank on a form, and it certainly can cause confusion for the client. Are there questions on the buyer agency? Because I said I really was not necessarily going to show you exactly how to fill it out, and it sounds like you guys as a general rule, may have some good experience with this.
I do have a question. So where it's got like the buyer acknowledges receipt of sample copy, where are these sample copies?
Right. Unfortunately, they are really only, I shouldn't say only, they're found in a lot of different places, but from your, for your process, there are two places. One, I would say a good habit to be in would be to go ahead and download the offer to purchase, the brochures, the professional services disclosure. So the quick answer to that question is they're in these forms.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I'm going to go to DocuSign. I probably should have, that's a really great point. So for instance, professional services disclosure is actually an NCAR form. Again, there's one for buyer, one for seller. They are the same exact form. Sellers they're not required to fill this out, but it's really a good form to share with them because it gives them an idea of the process that the buyer's going to be going through. So it kind of takes a little bit of the element of surprise.
People ask me about it and I just like didn't know.
Yeah.
But is 585 or 760 the right one?
I love that you asked that because I was not going to move off of this. Good to drill into your head that if you see a 500s series form, those are generally commercial forms.
Yeah, okay.
So the 7s are the ones to use. You guys are not going to fall into this trap because we talked about it, but I fall into the trap where I pull the form in. I'm like, wow, this seems so different. And I realize I've pulled in a commercial form. I will show you this. Let me go ahead and add the commercial form in. This is just a helpful tip here. There is on all the NCAR forms, there's actually a great logo that shows up on them. So if you see, most of our forms don't have that logo. So if you see a great big picture, that's your trigger right out of the gate. You've got a commercial form.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, but generally speaking, it's all 500s will be that. And I've done it many times. So if I could save you that headache, that will be great. So the other thing that I'll show you, because to that question, for instance, you said, do I want to always pull in the form, or would I rather have a PDF document that I could send to my client? This is pretty tricky because again, it's pulling in information from my details already. So there's a little bit of auto population that's happening. But let's just say that, sorry. There we go. It's amazing how Zoom buttons can totally cover up the things you want to see. If you ever want to print or download a form, maybe a blank one, maybe your client's coming in to the office and you're actually going to sit and go through this. This is not as simple as you'd think. You'd think there would just be a print button somewhere on DocuSign. But up in this upper right-hand corner is document actions. So you have to actually be in the form itself as if you were going to fill something out. You click on that and it gives you all these options. So to answer the samples question, if you wanted just to download a blank form, obviously you wouldn't want to have any of these names in here for you to just save on your computer. You could do that and then save it to a file folder on your computer. And that way that's an email that you could send to your client that just attaches those samples. So if you're filling out the buyer agency, then you would just check that, yes, I have sent those. And just by the way, we are required to send those samples. Some agents maybe get away with not doing that, but they shouldn't, because this is important information to know that your buyer has seen all this. Any other questions on the buyer agency or things that you might wonder what goes in there. I will point out on the buyer agency, this there's the dual agency authorization. This is a really important and often overlooked part of the form when you're having your client to sign. Because it's important to know that if you are showing a property to an agent with Keller Williams Professionals, that's a dual agency situation. And that crosses over to offices like Black Mountain, anybody who's affiliated with KWP. That would be the South Asheville office, newly the South Asheville office, the Weaverville office, Asheville at 86 Ashland or at 53. So if you have a buyer, this could be a conversation that they have with you. They might say, well, I really want exclusive. I don't want to be in a dual agency situation. So this goes back to that working with real estate agents conversation and how well you feel, how comfortable you feel with explaining that part of it. But if they said, I only want exclusive representation here, you would not be able to even show them a property that is listed with Keller Williams Professionals. You could show them a property listed with Keller Williams. Hendersonville Mountain Partners, I believe, is their name, or Great Smokies in Waynesville. Those are not dual agency situations, but with about 450 agents, you would really be cutting them out of a lot of listings. Anybody have questions on that or comments or thoughts? All right. Oh, no, Ethan, you got one? Okay.
Good. I was about to say no. Sorry, I feel like I'm not being like I'm driving.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all good. This is all good. Uh-oh, we may have lost you. All right. I am flipping through here. Everybody pretty comfortable with going through the buyer agency or the details of it? Again, Ethan, between advisors, BIC, we can go through some of this on a deeper level. I don't want to bore those of you who have looked at this closely and don't really have questions on it. And maybe my next question would be, are there particular forms that you might have questions on that you can think of?
No, to be honest.
All right.
I would just love going over the offer to purchase. I don't know if you're planning to do that, but
yeah, let's do it. We got 8 minutes. We can do that. Any places that you've gotten stuck on the offer to purchase or that stood out like, what in the world do they mean by that? Just so we make sure we hit that.
I think I can't remember, somebody had showed me like how to get the property card and stuff to fill out the plat and lot and stuff like that. But I found that it's kind of confusing.
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes they'll say, I don't know, or it'll be the previous D, or I don't know. So yeah, just that's kind of confusing.
Okay. Yeah, and that's one of the most important. I mean, it's a very important part. So hold on. I'm no longer a realtor. There we go. Cool. Got scared there for a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and log into MLS, and I am also. All right. So we know that MLS. That's one of our places that we can get information that's been added by, oh, good gracious. I've not been reading my news there. That's something that can, shoot, I lost my whole train of thought. Property address. Anybody got one? that you know is listed? Because always when I'm thinking about it, I can't find one. Let's go this one. Okay, very good. So we know that you can find some information. That's probably what I was headed to, is that it's only as good as what the listing agent put in MLS, but you can find some of that here on the MLS, the parcel ID number, the deed book and page number. Sometimes those are absolutely accurate, other times not. So that's kind of your step one. And when you begin to fill out a form, you'll actually need it down the line to have a copy of the MLS sheet that you're maybe making an offer or for that property. So a lot of times I go ahead and just download this to my client's file so that I've got it to reference back. But let's say that you don't trust all this, or you feel like, I need to verify this a little bit. My very first go-to is going to be the county GIS. You'll see that I Google everything. Could save that. I like to type. They're different between counties, but there's a lot of similarities as well. So even though the process may be a little bit different. So let's look at that same property. The reason I do this, Buncombe County's pretty easy in terms of it's easy to look up by the address, is all of a sudden this is a ton of information just right out of the gates. The property card, there's a link to it. The current deed book, deed page, if there was a plat, the PIN number, of course, is there. Hopefully I've got it. And some of these other details, who the sellers are. So that's kind of a good starting point to find some of this information. I clicked on property card right there inside GIS, and that pulled me into the Buncombe County site for the tax records. You can find all this information about 4 different ways, but that is in my opinion one of the most efficient ways to locate that. Any questions on that? I mean, I know GIS could be its own training altogether. There's a lot contained
no,
there.
that helps.
Okay. Yeah, so if you're filling out the information, definitely, again, as much information as you can plug in this description section is best, because I've heard situations where contracts were signed for the wrong property legally, and go all the way to the closing table, wrong property. So very important. Well, another thing that I'll tell you that gets overlooked a lot is in the other description on the offer to purchase. A lot of people leave this blank, but this is a really great way to further identify the property. And there are several ways that you could do this. My go-to is, let's say it's being 0.81 acres, MOL, which is more or less, with a 3-bedroom, 3-bath home. And you may feel like that's a little bit of overkill, but if you're actually looking at a property that's got 5 bedrooms and a barn or whatever that may be, that's one further step in identifying this property. It's kind of another fail safe that says, wait a minute, I'm looking at a 5-acre property, not a 0.81. So that's a good place to add some further description. Questions on that? Also with the offer to purchase, a lot of people leave off these check boxes over on the right. So just make sure that those are checked, whether you're receiving the offer or you're making the offer, that you know how the initial earnest money check is going to come in. So it's either by cash check, bank check, whatever those are, either with this offer or within 5 days. Generally 5 days is what we definitely are seeing more of now. Any questions on that? I had the question this week of, is that 5 days, calendar days or business days? Anybody fresh from school that remembers that?
Business.
You would so think. And yet, if it doesn't specify, it is calendar days. It's crazy. This past week was a prime example of a contract was signed on Wednesday. Thursday, Friday went by, Saturday, Sunday, because the attorney's office wasn't open to deposit or, to drop off the earnest money check. So that was really kind of an iffy moment there. But that is it. You want it out of your possession and into the attorney's hands or into Keller Williams' hands. And then from there, as the escrow agent, you've got three banking days at that point to get it deposited. So I just think that's an interesting little fact there.
Would the buyer give you the earnest check and then you give it to or they give it to their attorney?
It could go either way. Right now with COVID, we're seeing a lot less handling of funds between, on the agent's behalf, where the buyer might actually drop it off to the attorney's office, but they certainly can get it into your hands. And then it's your job to get it on over to whoever the escrow agent is. Keller Williams, as a general rule, professionals, we prefer not to be the escrow agent and to hold those funds in our trust account. We can do it. And again, in a situation like a holiday, that we have ways, of course, that you can drop off checks there, as do most attorneys, drop boxes and that sort of thing. But that's good to know.
The diligence money, does that go, do you hold on to that?
Yeah, again, we've been seeing it go straight to the seller. Let me fly down, watch your eyes. If you're driving, don't be watching this scroll. Let me show you on the acknowledgement page. There are 2 sections for acknowledgement that it's been received. So listing agent, this is not required. So if it went directly to the seller, was maybe mailed directly to them, dropped off directly at the listing agent's office, whichever direction, whoever has that is the one who's going to be signing this. So there's no requirement that it has to go through the listing agent's hands. It could go directly to the seller.
Okay, so you would give it to the seller or your client would give it to the seller?
Again, either, but your seller, you're asking me if I would take it directly to you as the listing agent, or I would have my client come directly to you. Yeah. I mean, again, generally speaking, you're trying to make this as easy as possible for your client. But, again, if you've got concerns with the number of hands it's passing through, as long as it gets to its destination, that is good. And as long as we get acknowledgement that it was received, and you want your client to have that acknowledgement. So I know that's a little bit of a vague answer. In the past, it's always been you're there with your client, they write the checks, they hand them over to you, and now it's in your court to distribute those. COVID has made that just a little bit different, because sometimes you're not sitting face to face signing documents any longer. I say COVID, that and technology have made the difference.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so those are good questions. One other thing that I want to point out is the date section on the contract for due diligence and closing date. A lot of times there's some back and forth with negotiation. Sorry, I'm trying not to. Actually, I think this is scrolling funny. No, there we go. Sometimes there are some days involved in negotiations. This is not me. I think I've got my auto scroll happening there. Sorry. Woo. All right, so you may not know the actual date for due diligence or closing when you're making an offer. So you see a lot of people put 30 days to due diligence and or 45 days, 60 days, whatever that is for closing date or settlement date, which is understandable because it might take you 3 or 4 days to negotiate all of this. But it's really important that these be clear dates. Again, we talked about business dates, calendar dates, but everything is quite specific when it comes down to those deadlines. So as soon as possible, you would actually want to put a hard date in here. If it's 30 days and now you're finally under contract, that way everybody's clear on what day due diligence ends. We've heard it so many times where people say, oh, I thought it started the day after we signed, or, oh, I was working off of this date. So that is just a huge, huge thing to be clear on for everybody from the first moment that you can be clear on it. The way that you would actually, come on, computer. I think I've worn it out today. So the way that you would actually make that change could be here on the contract where you strike through and everybody initials. But you also could do that in an amendment form. That's one form we haven't really looked at, the agreement to amend contract. So you can always make some changes to the contract using that form, and that's really an ideal form to do that on. Fixtures, let me give you this also. Alex, I don't know if you can overhear. I'm not sure if somebody's coming in. Are we good time-wise?
I am.
Is somebody coming in after me? I mean, I don't see anybody on.
You have a whole other hour.
Oh, I thought, okay. Chris he totally did. Thank you for unmuting for that, Chris. That's awesome. I was thinking we cut this down.
You said we had 8 minutes.
This is Maria's
ago,
teaching
and I started
forms.
laughing because I
Here,
didn't
look.
realize we had another hour.
Who is this? It's so hard. It's so hard to see people who are sideways, isn't it?
Remember when Maria used to work for us?
No.
Oh boy.
Doing great, Maria. You're doing great.
Jeff, don't you have work to do?
I know. You know I don't work.
No, we're good. She was just asking me a question. Are you good, Maria?
Yes, totally.
Okay.
Chris is even better. Chris, we'll be here all day. This is awesome. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that 8-minute teaser. Now yeah. Okay. Does anybody need a break, Chris? Do you need to go stretch or anything? Ethan cannot take a break.
Let's do it.
Take a break?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do it. 5 minutes?
2:13.
Okay. I like how you're running the show here. It's good. 2:13. Yes, Ethan, turn on some music. Jam out in your car. And Leslie, we might have lost Leslie. All right. I can use it too. I wish I had some music jamming right here. I'm so sorry, I'm late. This is what happens if I walk through the office just to fill up my water. All right, we are back. You better, Chris? Are you ready to go for 4 more hours?
Yes, I did some down dogs and got to
Yeah.
make some coffee.
Yeah. I mean, look, you look refreshed. This is
Yeah, I'm ready to
awesome.
go.
Ethan's got road time. So, I mean, again, we'll be here all day. Okay. So we were talking, is this part helpful? Let me just make sure, since Leslie is not on here now. Are there any pieces to the offer to purchase that you're like, no, I got all this?
It's always like when it comes up, right? It's not
Yeah. Yeah.
as they come.
It always feels very obvious until it's 11 o'clock at night and you're trying to fill out an offer to purchase.
Exactly. I filled out two not too long ago, but I mean, I haven't been around it every day because I haven't been active. So
Yeah. And that's what happens when time goes by between filling out or working through some of the technology pieces. It's so easy to kind of forget what's happening there. So again, I mean, I'll hit these personal property or items, fixtures and that sort of thing, because this is again, something that gets overlooked. And if you're a listing agent, these can be really important. I have seen where agents have to buy a washer and dryer because they didn't pay close attention to this. So items leased or not owned would be anything, obviously, leased or not owned. Propane tanks, we see a lot where they're leased from the company. So you want to go ahead and identify those. You can find that, by the way, usually on the property disclosure, as long as the seller knows whether or not they own it. And then anything that doesn't convey, I tend to notice that from MLS. Hey, Dottie. We might have been, were we crossing over with Ignite today? I bet we are.
No, I just had another meeting going on with my other job.
Oh, gotcha.
So I
Well,
apologize for my
welcome to the fun meeting.
Thank you.
No, I'm kidding. We are having fun. There is no doubt about it. We're going over the offer to purchase actually currently. So we were talking about how leaving blanks is bad in real estate. So right on this section of items that don't convey, if there's nothing there, again, really good to put NA there so that at least the listing agent, the sellers, the buyers, they're all realizing there's nothing that we're excluding from the sale based on what the seller said. And then personal property. This is where I talked about that agents have been known to buy washing machines or dryers. I love when I say washing machines. It's like an old term. That's a retro term. And this is where those would be listed. So personal property. I think we were talking on yesterday's call. I don't know why we would have been, but anyway, we were talking about, maybe this was Monday. We were talking about items like furniture or personal property that might have some kind of other value that's not an appliance. Most lenders don't want to see those items on a contract. So you're really going to keep this as small of a list as possible, but mostly centering around appliances. Washer and dryer would be the additions to that, even though those are appliances. And I see outbuildings on there as well. So if there's like a storage shed that the buyer expects will still be there when they move in, that seems to be working well. But if you start listing out personal items, TVs and furniture, lenders really do not like to see that. They'll ask you to remove it from the contract, and they'll ask you to put it on a bill of sale that's separate from the contract. So it's okay that it transfers outside of or at no value or as part of the closing, just not on the contract. So, and actually, I remember this was on an advisor call. We had an attorney who's an agent with us now. She was also an agent in Florida. And she was remembering a time when people used to reduce their tax liability by including furniture. So they would reduce the sale price of a home. They would add all this furniture in at this value. And therefore they would somehow wind up paying less taxes. So I'm sure that's how that got changed and lenders stopped liking that part of it. Let's see. So really good reading material for all of you is the what the buyer's process looks like. This is really good, and it could bring up some questions for you. So if you cannot fall asleep one night, just pull out your trusty contract and dig through that over and over, because these are really important things to share with your buyer too as you're filling out the contract. It's especially a concern in these days when we do a lot of things digitally. We don't always sit across the table and go over documents. We shoot them over to them by email. The program itself prompts them through the document, so they're zipping through it. You can sign a document in about, I don't know, 10 seconds. And the likelihood that they might miss something really, really important is pretty high. So it's the better you know this and you know those places that it's important to point out to them, the better you're gonna do with interactions and have no surprises. For instance, the property is sold in its current condition. We're seeing a lot right now where buyers are making high offers and then kind of beating up the seller on repairs down the line. So, you know, this is important for them to know that technically a seller isn't required to make any repairs to a property. All properties really are as is. So things like that can be really important to point out. Buyer representations, this really has to do, this first section, A, has to do with their finances. If you had a cash buyer, which is a wonderful day on many cases, on many levels, this is where you would actually specify it. A lot of people say, where do I put that they're a cash buyer? The only place that this stands out is that the buyer does not intend to obtain a new loan. So that's the only place to make that cash stand out. Good thing to point out when you're presenting the offer. If they do have to, all of these blanks are really important to showing the strength of the buyer, or if you're the seller, if you're representing the seller, to being able to sort of navigate what type of borrower this is, how solid are they. So we see a lot of times where these items don't get filled in, but they should be. So the type of loan, anybody have heard thoughts or heard any info on the different types of loans that are out there? Any red flags or things to be wary of?
I've actually heard sellers are wary of like FHA loans and VA loans just because of the inspection requirements for both of them. Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't mean they're bad by any means, but it can be specific to a home. A person might be listing a home that is absolutely going to be a nightmare FHA or VA loan. And those are things like peeling paint or previous signs of leaks in the ceiling. Trying to think of anything really dramatic. Those things that you're like, wow, that's not that dramatic that the paint is peeling, but it is to those lenders. So Dottie, that's a great one. And our job really is to help our clients understand the type of property that they have if we're listing it for them, and what types of financing would be a more solid fit for them, or more likely to go through. So
it's not that FHA or VA are bad loans by any means. They're great products for the people that they work for. But as a buyer's agent, really important to be paying attention to the type of property you're showing and kind of know what those guidelines are. You can Google those. You can say, you know, what's the, I had at one time a list of their requirements. I think it's a little bit outdated now. It may be too old, but just to Google, you know, what does FHA require a property to have or not have, and be very familiar with those, because that can derail a deal, especially if it's a home that your buyer's heart's set on and they just can't quite, the home won't fit that. The principal amount of, a lot of people get tripped up at that part. I'm so sorry. I'm just going to quiet down the hall that's outside. A little bit, I just can't. Sorry, I'm getting so distracted by all the conversation that was happening out there. So that was tough. Now I've made them whisper. This is not fun at all, is it? All right. So the principal amount of this could either be an amount, a dollar amount, or it could be a percentage, the loan to value percentage, and that's usually pretty easy to get from the lender. Any questions that you've got as to how you would find this information, where this would come from? So usually we talked with our advisor group on Monday about pre-approvals and how crucial those are, especially in our market right now with multiple offers. It would be crazy to go in without knowing that your buyer's qualified. So pre-approval letters, and sometimes the lender, sometimes you may get kind of a generic pre-approval or pre-qualification. Sometimes you might have to contact their lender directly. It's amazing how many buyers don't really know this information when you say, well, what kind of rate? And again, they're not locked into a rate until they're under contract. So it can be hard for them to get that exact information as well. But never feel concerned to reach out to a lender that they're working with and get some clarity about the type of loan. All right, one other huge thing that I'll point out on the contract, in North Carolina now, we no longer have a standard contingent sale addendum, and a lot of agents are not super clear on this. Even with other firms, you'll find that they feel like we still do. It is possible to make a sale contingent upon the sale of another home, but there's a different process for it. So on page 7 of the contract, you see that the buyer does or does not have to sell or lease other property. And you would generally list this out if they do actually have to sell. You would specify whether it's already under contract, and it is very common for the other side, the seller, the listing agent, to ask you for a copy of the contract that's on their home. That just gives them some detail information of timing. Maybe they are interested in knowing how solid the contract is, or there's some weird components in it. So be prepared that if you have a situation like this, you may have to actually get a copy. Let's say if somebody's selling in Florida and moving here, you may have to be in touch with that agent to get a copy of the contract. You can mark through or cross through any identifying information, even purchase price, by the way, because that would be fairly confidential, not something to be shared. And it may be that your seller's selling a really expensive piece of property and buying a really inexpensive piece of property, and that would likely it would likely negatively affect them. I know a listing agent would say, hey, they have loads of money. Let's let's keep negotiating this. So anything that would harm the buyer, you could certainly mark out of that, names and that sort of thing. I wanted, though, draw your attention to this blue box. The Real Estate Commission did a good job a couple years ago of drawing out boxes over things that are really important. And so when you look at a form, if you see a box, read it, because it's really important stuff that they do not want the client, the buyer or the seller, to miss. So in bold letters, and you'll be amazed at how many people never see this, this contract is not conditioned upon the sale of the property. So that if their home doesn't sell, it doesn't give them the ability to terminate the contract unless they're still in the due diligence period. So what would you do if you absolutely need to make it contingent upon their property selling? We see that right now, where buyers literally can't qualify for a new loan until their home is sold. Now, there would be a couple of options for some borrowers, something like a bridge loan, which they would borrow while they're waiting for one home to sell. Any ideas in terms of how you could enter a contingent addendum in there? Because we don't have one in those forms sections. There's actually technically one way, and it's in the box, just by the way. So it's a fun game that we're playing, but I'll tell you. It is, you have to have the attorney draft it. I actually just got a question yesterday about loan contingencies. What happens if my buyer can't get their loan? They don't qualify. And of course, right now with COVID, especially earlier in the year when layoffs or temporary layoffs were happening, we were seeing that a ton. Again, there's no contingency or nothing that says that if the buyer can't get their loan in their past due diligence period, that they can terminate without penalty. They can always terminate, but they may lose quite a bit of money in doing that. So anytime that you've got a client that has a really specific situation like that, the only way to protect them is to have an attorney draft that language and that addendum that'll be part of the contract itself. And that's tricky, because if you're in a multiple offer situation, it's Sunday, the likelihood of you getting an attorney to draft that is very slim. Probably not going to happen. Thoughts or questions on that portion? Guys, I am explaining this so well, I can totally tell. All right, so an option for filling out the property disclosures. There are a couple places where disclosures are not required by the seller. Does anybody remember from class when that is? What those situations are? Oh, let me tell you. Oh, Chris, you're getting ready to say. Okay.
I can't remember. It's been so long. But is it new construction?
Absolutely, new construction, and the other one would be foreclosures. Yeah, so bank-owned properties, and that's really because they don't know about the property. Foreclosures are tricky because very little is disclosed. It's really on you to help your buyer dig through all the details there. Oddly enough, mineral oil and gas rights are, so far, unless something's changed, not specifically required for land purchases. Makes zero sense, because it's actually the land that you're talking about. So we do encourage everyone to go ahead and have mineral oil and gas rights, even if you were doing a land purchase, for your sellers to disclose that. And if you're a buyer, to go ahead and ask for that disclosure. Some agents will argue that with you, but it only makes sense. You want to know if the rights are there. We haven't seen a whole lot of it, but in some states it's a big issue. And then of course fracking has changed that. Sometimes there is some value in what's under there. So it's, again, I thought it might have come more to light in the last few years than it has, but still pretty important to know that those rights have not been sold outside of the property itself. And usually that's deeded, just by the way, if something has happened. So in all that property research we were talking about, if it has been sold, you should be able to see a deed somewhere for it. All right. Again, if there's a box that applies, a check should go somewhere for clarity. So seller representation, the ownership that they're representing, how long they've had it. That'll be important for their tax liability. Lead-based paint is one of the addenda that you'll see in here that's actually one of the disclosures that's actually truly part of the contract itself. Houses built prior to 1978. I know they drill that in your head in school and can be easily forgotten on a property. Assessments would be if there's anything that is either an HOA, the county has proposed or confirmed, and that this is that difference. So we see this a lot with the HOAs where they say, okay, we're proposing and we're voting on next year, you know, the HOA fees are going up to this amount, but they're not fully authorized or confirmed at that point. So that's why there are two different options here. Those that are proposed, those that have already been confirmed, and it's a done deal. Same with associations. Sometimes we see it probably more so with condominiums where there might be two management companies, so that you could have two. And again, as much information as you can put in here, the better. It gives you a place to reference back. One of the places we see this so often is right at the closing, where the attorney is trying to figure out what the dues are. And sometimes these portions haven't been filled out correctly, digging up who that contact person is and getting the information so that it can go on the closing statement is pretty interesting. So a lot of people will skip over this knowing that we can find this at some point, but it's good to know right off the bat. Also, if you're making an offer, you want your buyer to really be clear on what their costs are going to be part of that property. If there's nothing, as it is with some of our rural properties or that are just not in a homeowners association or governed by that, you can totally pop an NA here on this top box. Same with the second one. I do that always on the second box if there's one HOA, just so that there's clarity again, that there's not actually another one, or that I've thought about it. Or to prompt the listing agent to pay attention that, yeah, I didn't realize there was a second one. All right. More good reading material. This is on the seller side of what some of their requirements are. Deed. This is an important part, as best you can, to know how the property is going to be titled. Those would generally be legal names, and again, overall, we're usually using legal names anyway in the documentation, so it shouldn't be that surprising. But it's always good to ask how they want this to be deeded. It could be that it's being deeded in more names than are actually on the purchase contract. So that's always tricky. If I shouldn't say tricky, that is always a possibility. But if there's anything that's surprising to you, good to reach out to the attorney, ask the questions. Don't ever try to tell them how to deed it or how they should be taking title to it. That's definitely an attorney, and we do not play attorneys, as we know. All right, and then closing costs. A lot of people find this is agreement to pay buyer expenses, AKA closing costs. So when you're in the throes of writing an offer, sometimes this is a very elusive box that you're looking for. Like, where do I put the closing costs? It's on page 10. And then this would be a specific amount. Now, I would say that it's very important to check with the buyer's lender to make sure that you know how much is allowed, because lenders do put limits on the amount of closing costs. So you could easily say, well, we want you to pay $25,000, which would be great. But the lender may say, we only allow 4,000 or 6% or 3%. So usually in the last year or so, I've seen where lenders are, they're actually telling the buyer, you know, go ahead and try to ask for this much in closing costs. So the buyers are actually coming to you saying, well, my lender told me to do this. Does everybody understand what that looks like in the big picture? What it does to the purchase price? Any questions on that? Okay. As long as we all know that that is reducing the net purchase price for the seller, because that's a really important part for them to know. And you'll hear so many sellers saying, I'm not paying their closing costs, the buyer, I have to pay my own closing costs. Why would I do theirs? So some buyers need that because they don't have as much cash, liquid cash that they can bring to the closing table. So it can be very important to the buyer to actually have them cover some of those. In essence, it's allowing them on some level to finance those in, because sometimes we'll see that the purchase price may be increased to allow for the seller to pay some of those closing costs, have less money that they need to bring to the table in the end. And so by doing that, the loan is actually on the purchase price amount. So just because the seller is netting less doesn't mean they're paying less for the home, if that makes sense. All right. Again, I'm sorry.
They said it does. Just giving you some feedback. I know it's boring if you're not.
It's so stinking boring, and I do it to people all the time. Jeff would, if he were in the background, he'd be like, "She never talks." Yes, go, Chris, go. That you were breaking the monotony right there. That's what was happening. It's awesome. All right, home warranties. You'll actually get to hear from our favorite home warranty company and representative this week. She'll tell you a good bit about how these work and how protective they can be for your buyer or even for your seller, how they can be a negotiation item. So it's a pretty interesting topic, the 210 home warranty moment that you won't want to miss. But yes, here on page 11 is where you will either request a home warranty or not.
So while we have your expertise, did you, I'm actually in the process of buying one. I've never bought one before.
Mm-hmm.
Would you, and I've actually spoken with the woman from 210, but I was also looking at American Home Shield.
Yeah.
Do you think 210 is, I mean, they seem to be very similar.
Yeah, you know, I have way more experience with 210, so I hate to I don't want to throw off on American Home Shield. Yeah. I know I've had some clients who have had that service. What I can go on is that 210 is so responsive and so just so easy to work with. So and also, I mean, I think Dawn and I were talking a week or so ago about, she said, don't say that we always pay claims, because we don't. and they don't, but my experience with them has been really amazing in how they have handled my clients, some really important situations. So, you know, they kind of get my vote, and you can continue to ask around. We don't have any kind of specific relationship with them where we make money to tell you that.
Yeah, no, that's why I asked. I didn't think so, but it's great to know, because I'm trying to parse out how to do it. And But
Yeah.
I did speak with her, so I think that's where we'll go. But it was fun to learn about why they get a bad rap and do a little
Yeah.
research.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. You probably bring some good insight since you're shopping a little bit for it.
Yeah.
But they're pretty amazing to have when you need them. They're like any warranty, and a lot of people we're kind of programmed right now because you always get offered, do you want the extended warranty? I mean, my phone rings all the time with my car warranty. And there were times when I wish I had done that for several cars. But yeah, warranties can be quite interesting. And, you know, I've even added on some features for a client as kind of a closing gift. So it's something that you know, I knew they had kind of concern. We didn't really find anything. I think this particular one was roof coverage. So as an agent, it can be a really interesting tool. So anyway, pay close attention to that call because it's pretty good.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other? So delay in settlement. I will tell you, I probably blew right past it. I'm not quite sure where it is on the form, but you know, our contracts have it is here in item 12. We have a natural 14 days kind of grace period that sits on both ends of the closing date. So it could close 14 days earlier or 14 days after without either party being in breach. So a lot of people lean in on that and they say, no big deal, we're not going to close. That's a little bit risky for sure, because right now we are seeing, even due to scheduling issues, we're seeing where closings don't happen always on time. The way to fix that would be through an amendment that where everybody's in agreement and a new closing date is chosen. And then really important for any addenda that is going to go along with this contract, that you go ahead and select it and that you include it as you're filling out a form. These are all different. Boy, there's a laundry list of forms, and those would be a whole 3-hour Zoom. Maybe not. No, we know they'd be 3 hours each probably. So if you have to include an addendum like that, get with your broker in charge so that you can ask the questions, how to fill them out. These are not as widely used. So you might have done one last year and you're like, how do I do that backup contract addendum? So it's always good to get some guidance on it if you're feeling a little bit shaky on any of these as you fill them out. And then also notice that there is a blank spot for other addenda to be added in. So this could be something like some firms have a supplemental provisions. We actually have one as well. So this could be any of those additional items. More great, phenomenal reading right there. And I'm going to bring you down to the notice page. So this is where all the players' information lives on the contract. You'll notice that most often the buyer nor the seller information is included on the contract. The reason for this, there's really two reasons. One is sometimes it can be really detrimental for the buyer and seller to be communicating with one another and sort of bypassing. They can get themselves in trouble. You know, something that might negatively affect them. They could do something not super legal that way. But more than anything, this page is for how you would deliver notice of something, whether it's a termination, anything that you might be amending. So by leaving their information off, you're saying it's really not okay to deliver notice directly to the buyer or directly to the seller. You would, however, want to make sure that you get all the information in for the agency notice area. And again, it's pretty important when somebody's trying to deliver notice. If you did not put a fax number in there, you're in essence saying, hey, fax is really not the way that I want to receive that, because I don't know if I'm standing there at the fax machine these days receiving your termination. So again, just know that's what this is, and every component is really important, that every box is checked, that you go ahead and fill out the listing firm. You can find that information on the MLS. So no blanks again. And then generally when you're making the offer, you're not going to do anything quite yet with the acknowledgement page. You will have some autofill sections that maybe put some numbers in, but this will actually happen when those funds are delivered or received by the party. Woo, we made it. Always so hard to go through the offer to purchase, and don't beat yourself up if it's 11 o'clock at night, and really all the real estate's done after 5 and on the weekend, so just prepare yourself for that. That seems to be when you're writing, and keep in mind that you've got the BIC hotline. If for some reason you can't get your broker in charge on the phone and you need somebody, do y'all want me to throw that phone number up there in the chat? You'd think I'd know it. I don't. Hold on, let me find the chat. Oh. All right, so I'm going to throw up this phone number and you can go ahead and save it. Our first line of contact is your direct broker in charge. So that is, just know that. But if you're not able to get a hold of someone and you just really need some help filling out forms or something like that, you can call right on in. I am going to get Alex back over here. All right. So are there any forms that you've heard of, nightmare forms, that we should not get off this call without discussing? Go, Chris. Uh-oh, Ethan, I missed that. See, it's such, I know, and this is like that nightmarish form that you're all like, wow, I really wish I could hear that form. I want to show you real quickly the amendment, because this is one that a lot of people don't know about, or at the moment you're kind of like, what do I do? All right, so there again, I just start typing what I think might pull this up. This is a 4T. This is when we need to do something dramatic to the contract. Maybe not dramatic, maybe just minor. All right, so this has a lot of options on it, and it's used for a lot of different purposes. So get to know this form, the 4T. Again, this will specify who the parties to the contract are, but in this you can change the purchase price. If for some reason we were going to add some earnest money, you could do that. Due diligence fee. All right, and due diligence period. That's really what we see so often. If you're coming down to the end of your due diligence date, and let's say that the appraisal hasn't come back, or let's say that the lender hasn't responded yet, there's still a lot up in the air, you might find yourself having to go to the other side and ask for an extension of that date. So this is the form that you would do that on once everybody is in agreement. You could certainly talk through it with the agent, but this is where it will change. If for some reason you chose a closing attorney on Saturday that you thought might be the escrow agent, This would be where, and you find that, oh, they're not even an attorney any longer. Hopefully that won't be the case. But this is where you could change that. Same thing with settlement date. So if the closing is being delayed, when I was talking about those 14 days on either side, it's a good idea to go ahead and keep a firm date, because again, all that gray area gets really confusing through the process of when is closing. And there's no limit to how many times you can use this form. So that's pretty important. I will point out that if you choose to extend the settlement date, you'll see this checkbox. This is actually written in here to close that window of the 14-day, because imagine that could go on forever and ever and ever. So it doesn't always happen that the 14 days doesn't travel with the new settlement date, but this gives a seller or somebody who feels like the other side maybe is delaying, it allows that window to close. So if the other party is not ready to close within 4 days, then all of a sudden they're in breach. So that's an important part to know, that you have to physically check that box for that to apply. Otherwise, the 14 days will still stand. The other thing that you'll use this form for a lot are those closing costs. Let's say that there are some repairs that need to be done, and the seller says, well, I really am not into making those repairs. I'd rather give you some money instead, give you a credit. So you might not have had closing costs coming in. Now the seller is going to credit you a certain amount. So you would change this. If there were none previously, you would pop a 0 in. They're hereby changed from 0 to $2,500, whatever that amount might be. Or if they were already $2,500, now you're adding another. So now they're hereby changed from $2,500 to $5,000, whatever those are. And then of course, these documents are signed by both parties. You can utilize this form as many times as you need to. So you might have 8 amendments to the contract. That sounds like a rocky road if you've got 8 of them, but it can be done. So there's no maximum, no over usage of it. You won't get dinged for that. And the only other thing that I'm going to do real quickly, because y'all are getting ready to talk about money coming up, so that will refresh you just a little bit. This is like the worst class to teach, isn't it? Forms. I want to point out that Keller Williams forms that we have that are specific to us. Our COVID compliant disclosure, that's the one where you're actually asking your client, hey, have you been exposed? Have you traveled? I think it still says, do you have any symptoms? That is truly something that we have every side to do with. So for a buying client, before they go into houses, you would want to get that disclosure and share that with the listing side. That's kind of the commitment we made when things were a little bit loose earlier this year, and we were really trying to ensure that we were an essential business in the world. And so this is one of the things we agreed to do as realtors. So it's gotten to be easy to let down on this side or maybe get relaxed with it, but it is still as required as it was. Heritage Title, we have an affiliation with them. There are 2 forms in here right now. So I'll have to look at those to see. We have made some adjustments, I think, to that, or we're in the process of it. So I think more to come from that. Technically, if we have made our final adjustments to it, this would be part of every single client file. So if you're working with a buyer, you would share this with them and have them to sign it. The KW Supplemental Provisions Addendum, I'll go ahead and add that one in so we can look at that in 2 minutes, Chris, 2 minutes. All right, so this one gets used in very specific situations. We used to just use it on every transaction, no more. We use it only for specific reasons. One would be if you were placing an expiration on your offer. So that's probably the most common one that we see it. Just know that if your offer expires before the other side responds, that your offer is basically a dead offer. So be careful with that. If there were rental property, if you're writing this as an as-is kind of property, truly as is. I mean, like that could be written right into the upfront contract that you're not going to ask for repairs. If the pest inspection is going to be done, if there is a manufactured home, and that's basically it. That we used to have a lot more options on here and some disclosures. So this is an updated 2-page, very concise document. But again, you might utilize this in some situations. Woo, that was good. That was less than 2 minutes. Proud. And then I know I got one more I want to show you. What is it though? Oh, you're prepared to close. This is so important. Actually, Stephen or Ellen, when you talk about the finances portion, they'll be pretty clear on what this document is, but this is an important one. It'll be part of every single transaction that you've got, because this is how you close. Love that part. And it's a pretty simple form. It is just going to have buyer, seller, date information, and if anything has changed. So this is a pretty simple internal document, but you will come to love and know you're supposed to have this one done 3 business days before closing. And there are instructions there as to where to send it. So that's good. Questions before you go off into money land? You guys have been a riveting audience. Wait, riveting. This information was riveting. I don't know what I would call you. So wonderfully quiet.
Your explanation was just that good.
Yeah, I know. That's the only thing I can chalk it up to. No, that is, I do appreciate it, because this isn't so much that you start to kind of glaze over, especially if you've been in meetings already today, you've been in Ignite, learning all kinds of info. So it's a lot, but when I think about that, you guys actually got your real estate license. This is nothing. It's going through that was the crazy part. So. How are things going? Are you guys feeling pumped and ready, or there?
Yeah, I'm pumped up.
I could tell. I wasn't sure if that was the music in the background.
There is no music. But
okay. The music of forums. No, that's good.
Yeah, my major in college was business law, so I'm very familiar with form, like very, very familiar with forms and stuff. So
good.
That's why
I gotcha.
And my mom's also a real estate agent, so she's gone through a lot of this already with me.
That is, yeah, it's so good. And no worries. Again, I mean, we throw all of this info at you, but when you get into the moment, you're filling it out, you've got the question, just ask. And next go round, you'll be like, oh, wow, that really had me stumped for a minute. And here I am. So there's just so much, and you've got a lot of people beside you ready to help you get through it. But I could tell y'all are an undauntable bunch. We're waiting on Mr. Matt.
Oh, I'm in here.
Oh, Matt. Sorry. It's because I'm still sharing my screen. I'm sorry. I was hogging your time.
No, you're good. All I need is, I think maybe you were going to share back with Alex, who could then make me host of the room, something along those lines, so that I can have screen shareability.
Yep, and she's got it. So Alex, if you can hear, He is ready. I don't think I can do it, Matt. I can't. She may be answering the phone.
No problem. Well, so just take the pulse of the room. How you guys want to take like a minute to like stand up and shake out the heebie-jeebies or whatever?
Man, they've just been through forms, Matt. I mean, they're all like.
Was that the first one of the day for you, or is this like the 7th class that you guys are in today?
I've had meetings for my other office job all day, so
Gotcha.
It's been a little crazy today.
I had a meeting earlier, but a pipe burst at my apartment in Charlotte, so I have to go check it out. So that's why I'm in my car. So.
Okay. How about you, Fundy?
It's like hour 7 at the desk. I've seen more of command and scripts and all kinds of people. I'm just frozen. But
right.
Maria, she killed it.
Cool.
She killed it.
I've got a little screen share thing. I don't think I'm the host, so let me see. Just out of curiosity, if I can do this, you guys can get a beverage or shake your arms out or whatever you want to do. So I can, boom, boom. We all see a screen there. Do I have that ability? Little YouTube channel. Perfect. I can stop that.
Yeah.
And let everybody take a couple minutes, and then we'll dive into this. Thanks so much, Maria.
Thank you. I think I'll see you guys tomorrow for MLS.
Ethan, what kind of pup is that riding shotgun?
It's a lab mix. I adopted him yesterday.
Oh, nice.
He's a 1.5 years.
How did you, what's his name?
Bandit. So I got him from the Asheville Humane Society. So I have another dog. She's a 15-year-old lab, and she's just aging so much. And so we thought another dog would kind of like, lift her spirits up. So that's why we got him.
Well, cool. I don't know if this is going to happen or not, but there might be a competition between market center and business centers with a kind of tongue-in-cheek approach to dogs, like a best in show kind of thing, but with like a treat eating contest, etc., that sort of thing. So I will keep you posted on that front. Dottie, what's your other gig?
I am in IT sales. That's the best way to kind of clarify it. We do outsourced IT for local businesses, and I'm an account manager.
And are you able to do that remotely, or do you go in to do that, or?
Yeah, I used to be in an office, and then when COVID hit, we basically sent everybody home, and they kind of realized, oh, we can still keep people at home, especially since we're still in a pandemic. But I've been working from home since March, so it's pretty nice because it's very flexible. Like, I'm able to be here in a meeting with you all and answer emails at the same time.
Nice. So are you able to kind of pick and choose what hours you're on at that? Or do you have time blocked out, certain hours that you have to do that, and then certain hours that you switch hats up and put on that?
Usually like 8 to 5, but it's kind of flexible if, I need to come in late or work a little bit late. So it's pretty nice because I can very easily switch the hats.
Perfect. I know Fundy pretty well. So I guess he went to go get a beverage or something. So this, what classes on Zoom have you all done so far with the Market Center here? Just the forums, or have you done some other things? What all have you knocked out so far?
I heard my name.
I was just saying I know you really well. I was doing like a little get to know you kind of asking some questions. But I know your gig, man. I know your gig.
Scary.
What other than forms, what have you guys done so far?
We
What
did
we did-
command earlier.
Yeah, I didn't do the command earlier. I was just in the new skills one yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just done the new skills.
Okay.
The new agent.
Well, so this one's all about profit share, and it doesn't necessarily go a whole hour, even though that's what they've blocked us for. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of background story. We got a couple of short video snippets to kind of watch, and then we'll talk about what profit share is, and how you can potentially make passive income from it. So early on, when Gary Keller launched Keller Williams in Austin, Texas, they were starting to gain market share in Austin, and along came one of his competitors and recruited a number of his agents and some of his administrative staff out from under him. And he said, that's baloney, and held what wasn't at the time, but would eventually come to be called an agent leadership council, where he basically got all of the agents left at the company and said, hey, we've got to figure this out. We're going to get in a room. I'm in this business to be profitable. So, it's not fair to ask me to start up a business and not look to turn a profit, but we also need sustainability, and it's untenable to run a business when we're constantly bleeding agents every time we gain ground. So what do we need to do to make this a company that you would not want to leave? What do we do to create enough value proposition from the company that you want to grow with the company? And a number of things came out of that conversation. One of them was that turned into the ALC, where they basically said, we want to have a stake in the way that the company's run. So at Keller Williams, we've got an agent leadership council. It rotates annually. It's made up of agents that the previous year were in kind of the top 20% of the agents at the market center. And we have committees that represent different areas of the business. So luxury, technology, growth, all these kind of areas are represented at the committee level. And this is easy to think of as like a board of directors for Keller Williams professionals. So the concept here is that you might be on the job for 17 minutes, but if you've got a good idea, you can present that to the agent leadership council. That can be taken right up the channel to ownership, and you can directly impact the way the company's run. So I think that's a pretty cool aspect of Keller Williams compared to other places that I've worked. One of the other things they said is, we're helping you grow the business, and we agree that you're taking the risk on the front end, so you should be profitable. But if you're wanting us to help grow the business, we feel like there should be some reward in that for us as well, as opposed to simply, we earn more commissions or whatever the case is. So that's what profit share came out of. Essentially, I think of profit share as passive income. It's ownership reward without ownership risk. So I don't have to spend any of my own personal capital to start up a business, market center, any of that. All I have to do is do the businesses I'm already supposed to be doing as an agent, and be willing to have conversations with people that I think are doing the business the right way. And some of those people will be very happy where they are. Some of those people may eventually come to Keller Williams. Each of you, when you came to Keller Williams, named somebody as your sponsor. So I don't know who all of you named. Do you all know who you named as your sponsor when you onboarded?
Yeah. I did Kate Brantley.
Kate Brantley?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I named Bradley Shore.
Bradley Shore. Fundy?
Little Shawnee.
Nice. So in theory, the person you named is the person who was most impactful in your making a decision to join Keller Williams. Not necessarily the first person you talked to or the last person or the person that pushed the paperwork. It was just the person that was most impactful. And what they get out of that is an opportunity to participate in the profit share program. So as you all start doing business at Keller Williams and you pay into company dollar, some of that money is going to go back to the, not just to your sponsor, but it actually goes 7 levels deep. So I'm going to say one more thing, and then we'll watch a couple videos, and then we'll chat about it, hopefully more conversationally, because I think that goes better than me just talking at the screen. The whole Zoom thing's a little spooky. Basically, get my screen share up. You know what? We're going to watch a video here first, and then we'll go. So let's see.
We refer to profit share and growth share as passive income.
This is the first time I've done this screen share thing. You guys getting this and hearing it? Perfect.
Yeah.
Run it.
Because once a productive agent names you as a sponsor, if they're in any profitable market center in the United States or Canada, you can receive a portion of that profit. Or if they are in any other country, you can receive a portion of the ongoing franchise royalties, which is automatically deposited into your account. You can sit on the beach and receive growth share and profit share. Now that's passive income. It sounds like fun, and it is fun. But there's a smart business principle behind it. Gary Keller explains that the systems are programs that allow associates to build a business inside a real estate company that is as powerful as if they owned the company themselves. This means that if you are a part of a market center's growth trajectory, you can be rewarded off of the success of the company. However, unlike owners, you don't need to invest any capital. Your opportunity is entirely passive. You have no financial risk, no legal risk, and no down payment. Why would a company do this? Because when someone names you as their sponsor, you've helped the company grow. And profit share and growth share are Keller Williams' way of thanking you. It's a win-win. And win-win is an integral business building block in our Keller Williams Realty system. The exchange of work for income is expected. Passive income has a different formula. Rather than exchanging labor for income, you rely on your vision. You think long-term. Plant a seed today. Give the other agent in one of your transactions a shift or an MREA book. And they may or may not join Keller Williams and name you as their sponsor tomorrow. But in time, the seeds you plant can grow into a profit share and growth share tree that provides you and your family with new opportunities and security. The opportunity is unlimited and the potential immense. Associates who have made the decision to participate in the program have seen their lives change forever. Profit share and growth share enabled them to send their children to college, pay for medical bills, support their communities, provide financial relief to others in need, to travel. Simply put, to live their lives the way they want to. And depending on the laws in your country, growth share and profit share can be willed to a beneficiary. This opportunity isn't for other people, it's for you and your family. You have the opportunity to collect passive income. It's a win-win.
All right, so that's on screen share. That's pretty straightforward. The concept here is naming someone as a sponsor is not a promise of mentorship or anything like that. It's simply they were impactful in you making a decision to join Keller Williams. So if you flip that coin around and you say, I'm impactful in someone else making a decision to join Keller Williams and they name me a sponsor, then I can participate in profit share as a result of that. Last year, Linda McKissick, I believe, was the #1 profit share earner in all of Keller Williams. So this is not, she does actually also own some market centers, but her profit share was over $1 million last year that she makes passively, right? So in theory, she could retire, not have any ownership stake in anything, no tie to anything, and continue making that year over year. And when she passes away, she can will that to her husband or her son, Preston. People will it to a charity. It's just whatever you deem the best option for you. Keller Williams is a big company, so not to give you the idea that like that's the one outlier. In our market center, Keller Williams Professionals in Asheville, one of the founders of that market center passed away last year. I want to say he was making like $400,000 to $450,000 a year in profit share. So that's right here in our home. I make profit share. I have people in my downline that are in our market center. I've got a lady in my downline that's in Austin, Texas, who I have never met personally. So the main thing I want to drive home is that Keller Williams is a huge operation and it's worldwide. And so a conversation you have with somebody can not only result in them naming you as a sponsor, that person, you never know who they're going to go off and become. They might end up naming someone or being named by someone that grows a huge downline. And since it goes 7 levels deep, all of those people kind of end up in your downline as well. So in theory, when I close a deal at Keller Williams, I get commission check, the market center gets a piece of that until I cap. 52% of that's going to go to the owners and 48% is going to get divided out amongst the agent pool. So there's kind of some complex math on that. I'm happy to send you a white paper if you're interested in all of that. The way I look at it is in our market center, if there's an agent that caps in my level 1 downline, I make about $2,000 to $2,500 a year off of that. So that person can have a downline as well, and I can make some money off of that as well. So it's just passive income that realistically comes from having a cup of coffee with somebody along the way. I'm gonna do one more video here to kind of chat about, show you how it's calculated.
Pay company dollar to the market center. The market center uses that money to pay its bills. What's left over is profit. Every real estate business is in business for profit, and usually the owners keep all of that profit. This practice makes sense. Owners invest in businesses with the hope of seeing a return. At Keller Williams Realty, we do things a little differently. We believe in growing the business together. So we split the profit between the owners who took the risk and the associates who have helped grow the market center. Roughly 52% goes to the owners who took the risk, and roughly 48% goes to the associates who helped grow the market center. So, how is it dispersed? We figure out what percentage of the market center's profit is the result of that associate, and we take that percentage of the profit share pool and disperse it through the branches of that associate's profit share tree on a monthly basis. The associate sponsor gets half, the associate sponsor's sponsor gets 10%, and so on until all of it is dispersed through 7 levels of sponsorship. At Keller Williams Realty, we believe the profit will grow exponentially when everybody has the opportunity to share in it. We believe in finding the win-win and in doing the right thing, because together, everyone will achieve more.
All right. So let's let everybody unmute and just kind of check in. Is this complicated, simple? Is it getting through the blood-brain barrier? Does it make sense? Is it exciting? Is it, yeah, I'll look at that later? What are your thoughts so far?
It's pretty simple and straightforward for me.
Yeah, it's definitely feels like icing on the cake to something you can already make great money in, and just to utilize and bring people on. I mean, that last one was a little more confused. I'd say that last graph, I didn't stare at it, but that was a little more confusing. Like the funnel of like how the money goes with the associate and sub-associate, that I wasn't super clear on that, but in general, it makes sense.
I'll tell you what that is. There's 100% of the profit share dollar to be distributed. So that's the breakdown of where it goes. Level 1's 50%, level 2 is 10%, level 3 and 4 are each 5%, level 5 is 7.5%, level 6 is 10%, level 7 is 12.5%. So for every dollar that gets shared through profit share, it's going through that. So to me, the concept is I'm always interested in what I have control over and what I don't. I don't have control over somebody in my level 3 having a conversation with somebody that they co-broke the deal with or whatever. So the philosophy from people that kind of play this game is if you grow it wide, time will grow it deep. So all I want to do is focus on my level 1 and making sure that everyone in my level 1 gets plugged in so they can get into production and is aware that this is an opportunity for them. And then it's out of my hands after that, right? So there's people in my downline that I've never met that had a conversation with someone that had a conversation that someone that had a conversation with me, right? But that's out of my control. So I just set the ball rolling. How about you, Donnie? Does it make sense so far? Or?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. My sponsor actually added me to the Profit Share Facebook group, so I saw the top earners of last year, and I thought it was really impressive, and it's very motivating, I would say.
So Aaron Kaufman, I'm assuming that's the one that you're talking about. He's one of the moderators, administrators on that Facebook page. And if you all aren't on it, I'll invite you if you want.
You gotta get off.
He's an example of a guy that he doesn't do business anymore in the traditional real estate sense. He runs a team that is all about sharing Keller Williams with people all over the world. And someone in his level 1, Brent Mitchell, like 9 years in a row has been the growth share partner, meaning more people have named him sponsor that year than anybody else at Keller Williams. So all that guy does is reach out to people that are in real estate school all over the place and ask them if they would like him to set up a opportunity to talk at Keller Williams. So the way I look at this is everybody at Keller Williams has a sponsor. It might as well be me if I'm in a relationship with that person. It's worth my time to have that conversation, right? Do any of you, I want to say that, Fundy, do you already have somebody in your downline, or did you send me an email with like from somebody named you sponsor or something, or is that different? Or
no, I've got some ideas and people that I just thinking down that could work, transitioning out of their current careers or even supplementing what they do now towards a career in real estate. But I don't have anyone like super hot.
So what I'll say is Keller Williams, this doesn't just apply to the profit share. This is in general. One of the big principles they try to teach at Keller Williams is this concept of leverage. So like if I want to do something myself, I've got 24 hours in the day to get it accomplished along with everything else I have to do that day. But if I can leverage a system, technology, another person, I can reap the rewards with minimal human capital expended. So the first thing I would say is like you don't ever have to recruit somebody or be a recruiter to participate in profit share. There's literally people in our market center that get paid to do that. And so all you have to do is have conversations with people out there in the business or thinking about getting into the business and be willing to introduce them to someone from leadership that then can have a conversation with them about where their goals are and if Keller Williams lines up with that. First thing I say is stay in integrity. Like we don't want to work with jerks. I'll just say it that way, right? So if it's someone you don't like, it's a short-term benefit for a long-term problem to try to bring them into the place that you work as well, all right? But if it's someone that you like and you think that there's value at Keller Williams, then it just makes sense to share what you think that value is with that person and offer to set them up with someone that can talk that conversation further. Our integrity standpoint is such that, like, if you all were asking me as you were onboarding, I don't know who my sponsor is. You're the one filling out my paperwork, so I just name you. My job is not to say, yeah, man, that sounds like a good idea. my job is to say, well, such and such referred you to me, or, who was most impactful in your decision to come in and talk to me. So sometimes people find Keller Williams on their own just because it's a big company and there's a lot of brand awareness out there. But more often than not, someone had a conversation along the way with someone, and that person ends up getting named. So my basic approach to this has been, I want to be willing to have that conversation with anyone that's looking to have that conversation. And I just let the chips fall where they may. I stay out of the results business on this. I just do the legwork business. And if it turns out that someone names me and then they grow a giant downline, beautiful. If they don't name me, they name someone else, doesn't matter. All right. It's just my job is to just communicate what it is that I appreciate about Keller Williams. So if you all, I'm going to put this in your court. We can talk about some basic strategies to try to grow your profit share tree if you have an interest in doing so. I think it's a no-brainer. In my experience, a lot of people don't pay a whole lot of attention to this until they get their first direct deposit of profit share, which happens on the 21st of every month. And then they're like, wait a second, what's this money that showed up in my bank account? And then they get interested in it. So on the 21st of November, my wife works at Keller Williams as well. I mean, we made over $1,000 in profit share that month. So, this can add up to very legitimate money for very limited effort. If you all want to watch a quick video, I'll show you this is going to be a little bit of Kellerized language on what a GPS is: goals, priorities, strategies. But I think you'll get the gist of it. And then we'll just have a conversation about some things you can do to begin growing your profit share tree. If you want to check out, you're not interested in profit share at this time, I'm not going to hold you captive to have the conversation. So control of destiny, it's all yours. We'll do a little screen share here.
Are you ready to reap the rewards of a company that treats you like a partner? Profit share and growth share are equal opportunity, unequal outcome programs, which means those who give the best efforts will experience the best results. What could you do if you had 10 associates in your first level? How about 20? What could you do with passive, long-term income with no personal investment? What would it do for you and your family? Make this vision a part of your real life. Use the GPS business plan to find the way to your goal. Then, commit to staying on that course until you arrive. The GPS business plan is a tool to help you identify your path to a big goal. It should be concise enough that you can memorize it and specific enough to keep you on track. It includes a big goal, 3 major priorities that must be accomplished to achieve that goal, and 5 strategies to achieve each priority. To complete your profit share and growth share GPS, specify exactly what your goal is. Is it 15 people in the first level of your growth share and profit share tree? Is it to receive $100,000 in profit share and growth share in 5 years? Write this goal down. Then, construct 3 priorities that, if completed, would enable you to achieve your goal. For example, will you make 1 call per day to a colleague in the industry and invite them to coffee? Will you meet with every co-broker that you do a deal with to share a gift of The Millionaire Real Estate Agent or the One Thing book? Then, construct 5 strategies to achieve each priority. For example, to achieve the priority of making 1 call per day to colleagues in the industry, will you create a database of agents you know who are not with Keller Williams? Will you systematize a tracking system for when you've talked with them and when you meet with them? Plan for a prosperous tree and achieve a prosperous tree. Make growing your profit share and growth share tree a part of your life, and watch the opportunities in your life amplify to the levels you've dreamed of.
All right. So the first thing I'll say is, I don't want to put a cap on what your goals are, but I also don't want to make it look like you have to do all of these things. So to me, the GPS, which you'll probably learn more about as you're with Keller Williams, is a very systematic way to approach achieving whatever goal I set, right? So it's just like, what is my goal? Be clear about that. Priorities to achieve that and strategies for each priority. And so it's just breaking it down. It's the old, like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? If I stay on track with these activities, I will achieve my priorities. And if I stay on track with my priorities, I will achieve my goals. It's kind of the way they go about that. And that applies to our sales business. That applies to if I want to start jogging 5Ks, anything, right? It's a system, a tool that I can apply to that. For me, the first thing that comes to mind is, at least some of you probably recently went through real estate school. And if you went through school, or you're doing post-licensing classes or any of that kind of stuff, then by default, you're in relationship with a pool of people, many of which may not have affiliated with a firm at all, some of which may have affiliated with a firm and found out that it's not a good fit for them. So I don't think the approach is to like sell people on it. I think the approach is always just to have the conversation. So this applies not just to profit share, this applies to real estate in general to me. Like if I was brand new at Keller Williams, whether I'd been in the business for 20 years or 20 minutes, my first job is to start reaching out to what we call a sphere of influence, people that I'm already in relationship with, and tell them, hey, I just wanted to let you know I just joined Keller Williams, right? I can do this passively by posting on Facebook, and that works to an extent. I can systematize it, put these people in a database, call them, let them know. All I'm trying to do is be in a relationship with people. And for profit share, you can do that same thing with the people that are in a continuing ed class, in a post-licensing class, that you know that live in California or Portugal or anywhere that Keller Williams is, for that matter, right? And just let them know that this is what I did. Some of those people are going to say, great, man, glad for you. Some are going to be like, well, I think that's a huge mistake. Some of them are going to say, well, what do you think about that place? You know, I was thinking about switching up where I am, or I haven't affiliated yet. What made you choose them? And all you have to do is have that conversation coming from your personal experience. Be authentic. Don't try to sell somebody. And offer, would you like me to introduce you to someone to have a conversation about? And I think what you'll find is a lot of people that have not chosen a firm to affiliate with yet will be very happy that you offered them what is perceived as an in to talk to Keller Williams. Because in real estate, unlike most gigs I had before real estate, places want to hire. You pay to work at a company in real estate. Right. So I didn't realize when I was new that if I'm paying you, I ought to be asking, what do I get for my money, instead of assuming that you're, doing me a giant favor by hiring me. Right. So some firms have a legitimate value proposition. You're paying, this is what you get. Hopefully that accelerates your growth and allows you to do more business, and it becomes a win-win. Some firms have no value proposition. They're not giving you anything other than a place to hang your license. Right. And not everybody figures that out day one in the job. Some people just affiliate somewhere because that's the only place they talk to, and they've got no clue what they're getting into. So to me, it's just about being open and in conversation. That's an easy group of people that I can do so with and demonstrate, this is what I'm doing, right? Some of them are going to be attracted to that. Does anybody else have any concept of things they could do, or you want me to just rattle some off for you?
You can rattle them off.
I'll chime in as you go.
So I'm going to step out of profit share mindset for a second and step into what I think is the one thing, the job. How can I get into production the quickest possible is like the number one thing when you're going into residential sales and real estate. Because like we just said, you don't get paid to work here. So you've got a timeline available to you. And the longer you kind of go along and don't get paid, meaning you're not doing any deals, the more that pressure builds up. And eventually your other job starts to look more attractive. If you don't have another job, getting another job starts to look more attractive. All right. The flip side of that is if we can help you get into production very quickly and you have another job, I guarantee the day will come when you realize you're losing money by working at that other job, because the earning capacity in real estate, there is no ceiling on it like there are at most other jobs. Right. So I'm not telling people to quit another job. I'm saying treat it like you've got 2 full-time jobs if you've got another job. And the day will come when you fire yourself from your other job to devote your time to the one that's earning you a better ROI. So to me, the real estate gig is very simple. There's basically 2 jobs that I need to do on a daily basis. One is to work my database, my sphere. So if you don't have a database yet, I'm going to give you a very simple way to build one. You get a pencil, piece of paper, spreadsheet if you're a computer person, and get what we call 4 points. So just sit down. They don't have to live here, by the way. They can live anywhere in the world. I've made commissions this year in Utah, Texas, other parts of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida, all on referral. So you don't have to be in your service area to make money in real estate. Write down their name, their phone number, their email, and their physical address. All right, and those are your 4 columns. You're not going to have all of that information, but if you have some of it, you can leverage what you have to get the rest. So, for example, if I know Dottie and I've got your phone number, but I don't know where you live or your email, I call you up and I say, hey, Dottie, it's Matt Jernigan. Wanted to just touch base with you. I just joined Keller Williams and I was reaching out to people I knew. I saw I had your phone number, but I don't have your physical address. Would you mind sharing that with me? I'm going to send out some things from time to time. I just get all that information, right? And then I can pull those people into command. So job 1, people that I know in my database, I want to stay in relationship with them. That doesn't mean I'm calling them every day asking, are you ready to sell your house yet? You know, we have a lot of training on this at Keller Williams, but basically I'm just trying to stay in relationship. Job number 2 is over here, people that I'm not yet in relationship with. And I want to get some of those people into my database so that I can get into a relationship with them. If you do those 2 jobs every day, the rest of real estate fills itself out by default. You will start booking buyer appointments. You will start booking listing appointments. You will start getting referrals. All of those things start to come together. All right. So like the way I do my day is my first half of my day is spent on those 2 activities. We call that working on the business. If I do that right, then my calendar fills up in my afternoons for going and looking at property or listing appointments. We call that working in the business. I booked those appointments as a result of the first 2 jobs. If you do those things, what's going to happen by default is you're going to start doing more transactions and having relationships with other agents. So some of these are agents that you'll actually go under contract and they're on the other side of a deal. Some of them might be you walk into a house to show a property or just do an agent preview for that matter. And they have set up like picture frames with descriptions of things going on in the house. Be sure you check out the shed out back. Here's a key. They put that on the kitchen counter for you. So you think this person does the job well. Get into a relationship with those people, right? And same thing as the sales. I'm not trying to say, hey man, I like the way that you set that house up. You ever thought about coming to Keller Williams? That's just bad play, right? But I want to get in a relationship with them. And eventually what will happen is you'll be in a lot of relationships with other agents because this is a competitive yet collaborative business. And over time, if you're in a relationship and you're doing your job and staying in touch with people, opportunities will come up to where people say, hey man, what do you think over there where you're at? I'm thinking about leaving agency X or whatever, thinking about making a change. Or if you are just doing the business and your growth curve takes off, other people will take note of that and they'll say, hey, you look like you're doing really well over there. What's going on? And then that's you're in to have that conversation. All right. So to me, that's just doing what I'm supposed to be doing anyway. Not only results in better commissions, but can result in an opportunity to participate more in profit share at Keller Williams. I'll tell you that while I don't necessarily advise this, period, there are people that have a lot of success with it. I think job one is get into production. So don't go into the profit share game. But a lot of states actually publish all this information. So Texas, for example, I can go on the Texas Real Estate Commission site and I can get a contact information sheet for every single person that is enrolled in school right now. And I can start calling those people. So there's a ton of different opportunities out there. I'm just mentioning that one to kind of give you a sense of what's available on that front. I think what you'll find is if you just do the business the way you're supposed to do the business, it'll start becoming attractive to other people, right? And it doesn't take a whole lot of people because it becomes a multiplier effect as it goes through those different levels. It doesn't take a whole lot of people to build out a profit share tree and a really successful downline. And then the last thing I'll say is you never know who someone's going to become in this business. So one of the Gary Keller lines that I like is the leaders of our industry 5 years from today aren't even in the industry yet. So there are people, could be one of you, that within 5 years are going to be at Keller Williams, like on the main stage at family reunion. Yeah, it's my 4th year and I did 107 million in production. I run a team of 17 agents with 3 admin. Like that happens all the time, right? And so I don't look at people that I want to come to Keller Williams as this person does a lot of business, that's better for me. That's irrelevant, right? I look for someone that I think culturally is a fit, that someone that I like the way they do business, and to me, that's a better growth model. The reality is one of the cool things about Keller Williams is nobody's worth more than their cap. So that ripples out culturally across the Keller Williams pond in a way that we get to make decisions based on who's right as opposed to who's worth more to the company. You know, some companies, there's an agent that does a bunch of business and an agent that doesn't. It doesn't matter who's right. The company's going to side with the breadwinner. But nobody's worth more than their cap at Keller Williams, so it kind of inverts that model. Any questions?
What's your good? I mean, I know you're saying just be in a relationship with them, but do you have like something that you find that works a little bit more for you to, you know, say someone's somewhere else and they're not happy, or there's someone that you think would be good at real estate? What's your
different people do different things. I'm a big fan of authenticity. Like I'm not a slick enough whistler to BS people out of a comfortable spot, right? Some people are, but I'm not. So to me, what I want to do is, first, you can't transmit something you haven't got. So the first thing I want to do is immerse myself, what I call getting Kellerized, immerse myself in the culture of Keller Williams. Like, how did this become the largest real estate company in the world in 31 years without spending a dime marketing itself? How did that happen, all right? It's not by accident that happened. So if I start to realize this is the thing that benefits me at Keller Williams, now I'm able to have an authentic conversation with somebody else. So if you've been in the business for 10, 20 years, you might have a fundamentally different conversation with another agent that's been in the business for 10, 20 years than if you've been in the business for 20 minutes and you're talking to another person that was in real estate class with you. But the principle is the same. This is what I'm getting out of what I'm doing. Is that of value to you? And if someone says no, beautiful. Shake hands, part as friends. If someone says yes, then man, I'd love to have a cup of coffee, or I'd love to tell you more about it. Or I'm not even the best person to tell you about it, but I'd be happy to set you up with someone that can. See if that's a benefit to you the way it's been a benefit to me. If you approach it that way, we call that come from contribution, then that's so much better than profit share breath or in sales commission breath. Like if you walk into a listing appointment and you're thinking, I've got to get this listing because otherwise my power is going to get cut off. That person on the other side of the kitchen table from you they can see that, they feel that. If you come into a listing appointment with the mindset of this person has a problem and I'm here to solve that problem, and if I solve their problem, my problem will get taken care of, then they feel that as well. So always come from contribution, whether it's from a profit share, a commission, any of that kind of schedule, and be authentic. To me, I find that more attractive. I don't know if everybody does, but I really appreciate when people approach me that way, and I'm much more open to what they have to share with me if I feel like they're approaching me that way. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm gonna give it 3 seconds of silence here. All right, so we got 10 minutes left. I'm gonna give you guys a twofold opportunity here. One is, if you want to log off, you're welcome to log off. Door number 2 is, if you have any questions about real estate, Keller Williams, anything, I will answer as brutally honestly as I can, as long as you'll let me answer the questions I think you should be asking instead too. So if you didn't get an opportunity when you were onboarding at Keller Williams to ask a question that's come up or any of that, this is your blank check opportunity to do so.
Matt, I'm gonna bow out so I can take my dog out before my 5 o'clock.
Beautiful.
But I appreciate, always appreciate you. You're an awesome guy. So thanks for being on today for us.
Cool. And since you're leaving right now, if you other two want to leave as well, I'll say the same to you, but don't look at this as like the 10-minute window to pick my brain. I like talking shop with people all the time. So if 6 days down the road, 6 months, 6 years down the road, you want to chat about something, feel free to, reach out to me.
Cool. Yeah, I don't have any questions, but I mean, if other people do, I'm willing to stay on to listen to them. I mean, there could be something asked that I haven't thought of, so I'm willing to listen.
That puts literally the weight of the world on your shoulders, Dottie.
I do actually have a question. So you said, put production first, and that's really what I want to do, especially, I think profit share is really good, and it's definitely, appealing when you see people making close to $1 million a year between husband and wife duo. But getting into production, what was the quickest way for you, just to get your feet on the ground? Because I am more than ready to quit my job and be a full-time realtor and get going.
So I think that this is essentially a rehash of the thing I said earlier. But to me, the two jobs are start with a database and try to be in relationship with that database. Everyone that's not in that database is someone I'm not yet in relationship with, right? That could be someone that lives in Los Angeles, could be anything, right? And every day I want to not only add value to the people that are in my database, but I want to talk to some people that are not, so that I can try to get into a relationship with them and start adding value to them. So that's the first place I would start. And I've never been a guy that's good at like what I consider just grinding it out, smiling, dial cold calls. I can't like dial all the for sale by owners and convince them that they should all list with me. Some people are really good at that. But what I am good at is talking to people that I'm already in relationship with and trying to figure out what I can do to be of service to them. So I'll give you a real world example. My wife and I right now, if you were to go in the lobby at the front of 86 Ashland Avenue, you'd see a box that's big and white, and there's coats in it, coats, gloves, that kind of thing. So that's something that we have set up there. We're partnered with Beloved Asheville. They distribute those coats, the gloves, to homeless and people in need. It's getting really cold out there right now, and because of COVID, a lot of the organizations that typically bring those kinds of things to bear weren't taking coats all year long, right? So the need's actually greater. So a typical call for something like that is not, hey Dottie, it's Matt Jernigan over at Keller Williams. I hadn't talked to you in a little while. Just wanted to check in and see if you thought about buying or selling a house. You looking to invest in real estate? Like that, some people are gifted at that. That's always been a hard call for me to make. But instead, I can call and say, hey, Dottie, it's Matt Jernigan over at Keller Williams. Just wanted to reach out and touch base. My wife and I are doing a coat drive. We're partnered up with this operation Beloved Asheville. There's a lot of need for coats. I don't know if you have a coat or gloves or something warm in your closet that you or your family's not using. But if you do, we would love to have it for our drive. We're going to make sure it gets put to good use. You can put it in a box in our office, or if that's not convenient, one of us will come out and pick it up. So that's an easy call for me to make, to come from contribution, to add value to somebody, right? They piece together that I'm in real estate, right? All I'm trying to do is stay in relationship with them. And it becomes a numbers game. If I have that conversation with enough people, somebody's going to say, actually, Matt, I do have a coat, and I wanted to talk to you about one of the following. We're thinking about buying a property. We're thinking about selling a property. I've got a friend that's thinking about buying or selling a property. I'm thinking about going into real estate. All 4 of those are ways that I can make revenue at Keller Williams, right? So I don't even have to ask for that. I just have the conversation and then do that enough times, it becomes a numbers game. And for me, that's a more fulfilling way to go about it, because I get to look at myself as, I'm not trying to sell something someone doesn't need. I'm trying to fulfill a need in my community that I think is a good need, and I'm sharing that with people. So that's coming from value. I think sometimes new agents struggle with, like, how do I do events or any of that kind of stuff? So some events you'll see people are like giving away pies to all their clients, and they're going to spend like $3,000 on pie. And that seems cost prohibitive. And I don't even have any clients to begin with. But all the event is a vehicle for the conversation. So as soon as you start looking at it that way, and we've got a lot of training at Keller Williams around this, it's no longer, the conversation's on the surface level about collecting coats or giving away pie. But you're not a baker, right? You're in real estate. So that's not the end of the conversation. All you're doing is having the vehicle to have the larger conversation about how can I solve problems for you. And they might ask questions that don't result in a sale right away. They might say, you know what, if you're in real estate, maybe you know a roofer. You know, we have an issue with our roof. And you don't have to have the answer to any question anybody asks you. You just need to know where to find it. And one of the benefits of Keller Williams is there's 400 agents, and a lot of them know a lot of roofers. So you just go on our little Facebook page and you say, who's your favorite roofer in Asheville, Hendersonville, Wayne, wherever the person is. Get an answer, get back to them, and now you've serviced them. You've solved the problem of theirs. The more you do that, the more when they come to a point where they're going to make a real estate decision, they're going to think of you, my friend Dottie, who happens to be in real estate. That's the game to me, right? And so the tricky part is, it's not like I'm going to do 6 deals the first week I'm in business, right? That's a long play game. But I guarantee you that is the better growth trajectory on this business. Because what will eventually happen is you'll get a deal here, a deal there, but you're getting in relationship with more people. And so then it becomes a numbers game to where you're stacking business on top of business. You start getting referrals from past clients, all of that kind of stuff. So if you see anybody that's been in this business for a while and does a good clip of business, I guarantee that they got one of 2 things. They're either paying a bunch of money to artificially provide a database to them, meaning they're buying leads from Zillow or something like that. I personally think that's a bad model for success in this business. Or they've got a database that they're staying in contact with. They might get business from other sources as well, but that's their best ROI of any business they're doing. And right now, being new in the business, what I would challenge you to find out for yourself is, people want you to succeed. People you're already in a relationship want you to succeed. So if you're excited about going into real estate, don't be afraid to tell that story. They'll be excited for you as well. And they might not be someone that we've got people that don't own a home, but they still refer business to us, right? So I don't want to look at anybody like a dollar sign. Like, if you ever seen like the old cartoons where like somebody, you're hungry and you see this other person and they turn into a big turkey leg or something. But like, I don't want to look at people like that. I want to look at people as everyone on this planet has problems. If I can solve some of your problems, my problems will take care of themselves. If I can approach it from service like that, then 1, I can make a really good living in real estate. It's a beautiful career for that. But 2, I get peace of mind with the way I go about my days on this earth. So that's a huge win for me. So that would be my suggestion. Bar none, start with the database, put it together with 4 points of contact, fill it out, and then just start adding value, calling the people checking in on them.
I like that. Thank you.
You bet. If you need help with that, look me up. I'm more than happy to sit down in the office with you and show you kind of how to set that up, how to use it in Command, how to systemize it so that it's not like, okay, who do I call today or whatever. We've got systems for all of this to kind of keep it in rotation. So all I have to do is literally sit down at the desk, and these are the people I'm calling this week. This is the type of conversation I'm having.
Right.
That's all I really had. So thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I don't know if there's another one after this. I don't think there is, but you guys are welcome to log off. I'm going to stay on until just a couple minutes after